Hello everyone, my name is Zach. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well today. I want to quickly apologize for not uploading in a while. Basically, the long and short of it is I shot 2 different videos to go up and I was editing them and I just realized I wasn't really happy with them the way they were turning out. So I just decided to not upload them at all. I would rather stick around and try to put up content I'm proud of than just get something out. After that, I filmed a rant review and I am currently in the process of editing it. It's a bit of a train wreck, but I've worked really hard on it, so I want to get it out there in some form. I'll try to get it up as soon as I can, but it was a massive undertaking. I think the current edit is currently at 50 minutes, so it's long, but anyway. Today we're going to be talking about all the books I read in the month of June, starting with the graphic novels I read. So I read 3 graphic novels in the month of June, and the first 2 I read were Sagas Volume 2 and 3. I didn't think Saga Volume 2 was as good as Saga Volume 1, so I rated that a 4-star. But I thought Volume 3 was as good, if not better than Volume 1, so I gave that a 5-star. I really enjoy the series so far. I'm hoping to pick up more in the month of July, but I'll have to see if I can get them from my library because I don't have money to be buying a 9-issue series, but really enjoying it. If you haven't picked up Saga, please do because it's incredible. The other graphic novel I read in the month of June was Lock and Key by Joe Hill. Joe Hill, if you didn't know, is the son of one Mr. Stephen King, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. But this graphic novel, I didn't love it at first, but it steadily grew on me as I got further and further into it. Basically, this is about a family where the dad is murdered, and after that they move into this mansion with a family member, and inside the mansion there are strange doors, and when you go through them, strange things happen, and the plot kind of goes from there. To be honest, I kind of wish so far that this was a novel and not a graphic novel, but I'm kind of interested to see where the story goes, so I'm probably going to pick up Volume 2. I ended up giving this 3 stars just because the plot was slow at the beginning, and I wasn't a fan of some of the plot elements, but it might be worth a try if that description sounds interesting to you. Next, I want to talk about the 2 audiobooks I listened to during June, and both of them are Stephen King stories. The first of the 2 is the novella Elevation, which was released last year. I ended up giving this a 3-star. I thought it was okay. It was fine. Essentially, it's about a man who finds he's losing weight, but he's not losing mass, which means it's only sort of a ripoff of the plot from Thinner. And while this is happening, he's trying to figure out what's going on. He ends up getting swept up in the plight of a lesbian couple in his town who are trying to run a restaurant but aren't getting business because the town is kind of bigoted. As I said, I thought this was fine. My main complaint really is kind of with the B-plot concerning the lesbian couple. Because it's fixed really easily. The resolution of that plot is kind of lackluster, like hearts and minds kind of change in a day. Also, I read a review on Goodreads that I kind of agree with in that I think most readers will have a problem with this plot because conservative readers are going to be mad that Stephen King's pushing the gay agenda. He's pushing them gays. And more liberal, progressive readers are going to be mad that there's a lesbian couple who has to be saved by a straight white man. Personally, I'm glad he's trying to make his books more diverse and kind of depict the struggle that the gay community goes through, but I can see why people would be mad about the straight white man saving them, and again, the resolution is really kind of easy and effortless, which doesn't really work in the real world, so Also, the resolution of the main plot, it was okay. Stephen King, he's not the best when it comes to endings, and so I was kind of just, oh, that's how you're gonna end this? Alright. Also, probably the 90,000th person to say this, but this should not have won the Goodreads Award for the best horror novel. I don't even know why it was nominated in the first place because there's not a lick of horror in this story. It's just kind of a nice little contemporary literary story. And the other audiobook I listened to in the month of June was The Regulators, which is the book I'm currently working on a rant review for. Needless to say, I gave this 1 star. I hated it. I want to give props to Frank Muller, who did the audiobook for this. He tried his best to make the story entertaining and somewhat enjoyable, but the material he's working with was just so god-awful that he didn't stand a chance, but shout out to my man Frank Muller. I love him. He's got just a great voice, and he really tried. But to give my short thoughts on the actual book itself, it features a lot of problematic elements. All the characters are dumb and have dumb thoughts. And the actual idea of the story itself to me was one of the just most stupid and dumb ideas Stephen King's ever had, and I can't believe he spent the time turning it into a 500-page novel. I literally got rid of the book the day after I filmed my rant review. That's how much I hate this book. Next, in the month of June, I read one play, and that is Arthur Miller's All My Sons. This is kind of hard to summarize, so bear with me. Basically, there are two business partners that work during World War II manufacturing plane parts. They ship out a bad batch of plane parts, which ends up getting a few people killed when they cause catastrophic failure. One of the business partners is arrested for this, and the other one is not, because he was not present the day that the parts shipped out. Flashing forward a few years, the son of the business partner that wasn't arrested invites the daughter of the man who was arrested to come stay with his family for a few days because they were very close back in the day, and he wants to see her again, and the plot kind of picks up from there. I gave this book 3 stars. I really enjoy Arthur Miller's The Crucible. It's one of my favorite classics. And I really enjoyed Incident at Vichy earlier when I listened to that. But this, to me, wasn't his best work. To me, Arthur Miller's strength as a playwright is that he writes specific scenarios that kind of push bigger themes, and you can kind of take the specific scenario and apply it to bigger themes about human nature and society. This play, though, the issues it tackles were really specific, so I didn't really think it had this kind of wide applicableness when it comes to the theme. That isn't to say the themes and messages in this book aren't good. I just think they were for a super specific crowd, and it didn't really do much for me. And the fact that the plot was sort of scatterbrained all over the place and it was hard to figure out what was happening until you read the whole thing just kind of made it kind of a wash. So, 3 stars. It was okay. Definitely not Arthur Miller's best. And finally, we're going to talk about the 5 novels I read in the month of June. The first novel I read in the month of June was Dean Koontz' Frankenstein Book 1. Here's what I think you should know going into this book. The mythos of this book is that Mary Shelley based the original Frankenstein novel on what was supposedly a local legend, but it turned out not really to be a local legend, and the actual man that is Frankenstein has figured out how to survive to modern day. I thought this book was great. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. The only reason I took off the star was because there are 2 main characters who are buddy cops, and they're pretty buddy cop cliche, like their relationship and their personalities. Like if you've seen any sort of buddy cop movie or book or something, you've read these characters before. But that being said, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I definitely plan on continuing with the series. There's also some good autism rep in here, or at least I think it's good autism rep. I don't really work with anyone or know anyone with autism, so I can't 100% vouch for it, but it seems close to how I've heard autism described in real life, so I thought it was really good. I do want to give a quick content warning. There is talk of sexual violence. It's not really shown, but a character talks about it happening to her. She doesn't go into detail, but it is mentioned, so if that's upsetting to you, you should probably avoid this. So the next book I read in preparation for filming a video about guilty pleasures that I ended up scrapping. Essentially, all I said in there was I thought guilty pleasures were a good thing because it meant you were intact with your emotional side, but you were still able to turn a critical eye to things even if you like them. For that video, I decided to reread an old favorite guilty pleasure, and that is Star Wars Death Troopers by Joe Schreiber. This, if you couldn't guess by the cover, is a zombie novel set in the Star Wars universe. Whatever your initial reaction was to hearing that this exists, it's probably how you'll feel about the book. If you think, oh, that sounds like hilariously dumb fun, then you might enjoy this. If you thought that sounds like the stupidest thing in the world, you'll probably hate it. Me personally, I read this when I was 14 the first time, when I was at the height of my Star Wars obsession and the height of my zombie obsession, and to see these 2 worlds collide, it's just good fun. It's not going to blow your mind. It's a fairly formulaic zombie novel just with a Star Wars coat of paint, and the plot's kind of structured like a mediocre Star Trek episode, and so again, if you think you'll enjoy it, you probably will. If you don't think you'll enjoy it, you probably won't. I give it 4 stars. It's still one of my favorite guilty pleasures, and I'm going to keep this one because sometimes you just need a good guilty pleasure to, cheer you up, It's hot garbage, but it's my hot garbage, So the next 3 books I'm going to read are BookTube favorites, so I'm not really going to summarize or talk about the plots because I figure most people know them, and if you don't, you can look up some information about them elsewhere. But the first book I read in that trio was This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. This book has me conflicted. I really enjoy the character of August, and I really enjoy the kind of mythos surrounding the monsters in this book. I'm a big fan of the monster genre, and to see these kind of new original ideas, I thought was really cool. But I didn't enjoy the other main character, Kate, nearly as much. I thought she was a fairly standard YA tough girl protagonist. Also, I thought the plot was a little lacking, to be honest. Apparently Victoria Schwab herself acknowledges that she's not the greatest when it comes to writing plot, and I could definitely see this. It felt like it should have just been a more epic story, but it seemed like it was trying to focus on kind of the small scale character drama, and it just kind of ended up clashing to me. And so I wanted to really enjoy this book because of August and because of the monsters, but also I can't fully endorse it because the plot was weak and I didn't really enjoy Kate. After some reflection, I think I'm going to give it a 3.5 star. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. It's good, but it kind of let me down just a smidge. And the last 2 books I read were the first 2 books in the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. The Bookish Babbler, Melissa, and A Beautiful Chaos of Books, I believe her name's Nicole, they are co-hosting a Lunar Chronicles readathon, and I decided to participate because I enjoy science fiction, and since these are so well-loved on BookTube, I figured I might as well get to reading them. I gave both of these books 4 stars. I really enjoyed them. I did have some minor annoyances with each. When it comes to Cinder, I'm not really the biggest fan of the original Cinderella fairy tale. Specifically, the stepmother character always annoyed the crap out of me, and she's just as bad here as she ever was. But I did really enjoy seeing Cinder interact with Peony, her stepsister, and I did enjoy seeing it reworked and made so much different than the original fairy tale while still sticking to the original fairy tale, so definitely liked it. When it comes to Scarlet, I enjoyed this one I think a little bit more because the fairy tale is deviated from more and it gets like more creative and more kind of wacky. I also really enjoyed the character of Thorn. I thought he was great. My big complaint when it comes to this one though is that it features one cliche I don't really like, which is the love interest that betrays the main character except not really and then has to beg for forgiveness. I think it's a lazy trope to help increase the angst of the romance and make it a bigger emotional payoff. Barf. That being said though, as I said, I still really enjoyed this. I definitely plan on continuing and finishing the series in July, so I fully endorse these. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So that is it. That's all the books I read in the month of June. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you next time.